One of the more difficult things about being a human being is having to ask for or give forgiveness. I don't mean the kind of sorry that comes from bumping into someone. I mean looking into the eyes of another person and connecting in that way. There's two sides
We
here.
have all lost someone, Mr. Lang. In your case, there is hope, at least. Sorry. I'm sorry.
And today I'm interested in understanding what goes into both sides, what goes into asking for forgiveness and giving forgiveness. In a letter by Desmond Tutu, we can see some of the process of forgiveness and why we should bother with it. It seems to involve some internal barriers or obstacles that can arise in someone who has wronged another person, as well as someone who has been wronged. Both wrongdoer and wronged will have to overcome these obstacles to meet in the middle for forgiveness to take place. This is Desmond Tutu's No Future Without Forgiveness. One major obstacle, obviously, that arises in somebody who has wronged another person can be denial. It's not until one accepts the truth of the pain they have caused that they may begin to feel the necessary quality of guilt, remorse, or contrition that will drive them to begin to seek forgiveness. And Tutu shows how denial can take different forms. A person can say they did not know what they were doing was wrong, or were just following orders, or doing what they were told.
Wasn't my fault.
Go wait in the car.
But in his own words, but like the three monkeys, they chose neither to hear, nor see, nor speak of evil. And what he's getting at here is that an individual in this situation is ignoring the proof and alarms that are signaling them that what they are doing is wrong. Another thing to look out for is hubris on the part of the wrongdoer. And we never want to be wrong, and we never want to lose. And most people are not taught growing up how to take defeat, how to swallow our pride. And a person has to learn this, that they must take on enough humility to admit they were wrong out loud. Yet another thing that may arise is the act of confessing on the part of the wrongdoer. The analogy that Desmond Tutu gives us is that a wrongdoer has placed themselves in a dark room that is difficult to breathe in. It is only when they open the window to let the light and air in that they can breathe again and see well again. And air will enter the room to freshen it up. So it is with forgiveness. On the other side of the situation, on the part of the wronged, an obstacle may arise. The person who has been wronged may think that in forgiving another person, they are forgetting. So how are they to forgive another person if they're also being asked to forget about what happened? But this is a misconception. And the author emphasizes that we mustn't do this. We must remember what happened so that such behavior is not encouraged or allowed in the future. In his own words, forgiving and being reconciled are not about pretending that things are other than they are. So his point is to forgive, but don't forget. This next obstacle is empathy on the part of the wronged. How can we ever ask the wronged to put themselves in the shoes of the wrongdoer? It's a tremendous thing to ask, and on some level even cruel. But if we do it, and they try to understand that there were circumstances, pressures, and influences that led the wrongdoer to becoming that way.
Why do you think he acts like that?
The wrongdoer can be seen as somewhat human again, not so far removed, and perhaps forgiveness can follow. A small handshake can make the unthinkable, the improbable peace, friendship, harmony, and tolerance not quite so remote. The next obstacle we're looking at is holding a grudge on the part of the wronged. In holding a grudge, Desmond Tutu explains that we live according to the pain, the rules, the prison that the wrongdoer has created for us. But in forgiving another, we can regain a level of self-determination, independence, and free will, as we are no longer living according to that painful event. And he demonstrates this imprisonment with a magazine cover. One ex-prisoner of war asked another, "Have you forgiven your captors yet?" The second one replied, "No, never." And the other turned and said, "Then it seems they still have you in prison, don't they?" See, for him, forgiving means abandoning your right to pay back the perpetrator in his own coin, but it is a loss that liberates the victim. Another part that we find in the process, as described by Desmond Tutu, is sincerity on the part of the wrongdoer. If something is stolen and one apologizes yet does nothing to return the item or value of the item, the confession and apology is not respecting the magnitude of the situation enough to be sincere. This is a huge part of reparation, a part of giving back to the wronged, as we have taken. So these were some of the inner workings of apologizing and forgiving. It's a meeting of two sides that requires a lot from the spirit and the psyche. And in highlighting all this, maybe it'll be easier to do what we all need to do at one point or another, because as humans, at one point or another, we will need to ask for forgiveness and we will have the choice to forgive. But why bother with all this work? Why not just avoid the vulnerable discomforts of embarrassment, shame, etc.? In the words of Mr. Tutu, true forgiveness deals with the past to make the future possible. And if you think about it, the past and the future are connected by the relationships we had and no longer have, and the ones we had and continue to have. These relationships are built on our shared experience of being human, and though some may be irreparably broken, we have to find a way to coexist. And as he points out, peace talks and forgiveness happen most frequently not between friends, not between those who like one another. It's between enemies. But because of the shared experience of being humans, even enemies have the potential to be allies. And so in this letter, we are encouraged to deal with our traumas. Because if we don't, the hurt will fester. One day there will be an awful eruption. And in this letter, he shows us how this process of forgiveness translates to the macro levels of national and international relations. It's a very valuable lens he's giving us. And for this reason, I've avoided summarizing the letter and instead diving into the concepts that are in between the lines. So read it, because it's coming from someone who experienced the different stages of South Africa's apartheid. He speaks on the successes and failures that went on in that country's search for reconciliation. And so in short, according to the letter, we should bother with all this work to reconcile our differences for the sake of internal and external peace. The future and community depend on actively exercising these muscles for enough peace to make it to the next day. And he realizes this is not easy. Because in his own words, true reconciliation is not cheap. It cost God the death of his only begotten Son. Whether or not you've read the letter, what would you add to the list that goes into the process of forgiveness? I'll link the profound letter in the description below if you want to read it. I leave now to ponder on in another video.
I just wanted to call you and tell you that I just wanted to call you and tell you that I'm sorry for what I said. And I really regret it. I never should have said that.
Rue.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Listen to me. I forgive you.
You do?
I do.
How do you know that I mean it?
Because the hour is certain to come. So we must forgive graciously.